You're lying in bed. It's 2 a.m., and suddenly your brain decides to replay the time you mispronounced epitome in front of your entire office. Crystal clear. Every detail. The silence that followed. The look on your manager's face. But last week, someone told you your presentation was brilliant. You can't remember their exact words. You're not even sure who said it. Your brain isn't broken. It's doing exactly what it was designed to do. And understanding why might be the most important thing you learn about yourself this year. In the next 10 minutes, you're going to understand the exact psychological mechanism that makes your brain cling to humiliation while compliments evaporate. More importantly, you'll learn why this happens, what it's protecting you from, and how to rewire the pattern without pretending to be someone you're not. This isn't about positive thinking. It's about survival architecture built into your neural wiring. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Sarah gets feedback on her quarterly report. Her director mentions 8 things she did exceptionally well, then adds 1 area for improvement. Her data visualization could be clearer. 3 weeks later, Sarah remembers the criticism word for word. The compliments? Gone. She knows they happened. She just can't access them. Here's what's actually occurring in her brain. Every human being is born with what psychologists call negativity bias. Your amygdala, your brain's threat detection system, processes negative information faster and more intensely than positive information. We're talking about milliseconds. Before your conscious mind even registers what happened, your amygdala has already filed that embarrassing moment under critical survival data. This isn't a flaw. For 200,000 years, humans who remembered where the predator attacked survived. Humans who forgot? They didn't pass on their genes. Your ancestors who obsessed over social rejection learned which behaviors got them expelled from the tribe, and being expelled meant death. So your brain evolved a simple rule. Negative information is survival information. Compliments are nice. Threats are essential, the ratio researchers have found. You need approximately 5 positive interactions to psychologically counterbalance 1 negative interaction. Your brain literally weighs negative experiences 5 times heavier than positive ones. Sarah's brain isn't being mean to her. It's trying to keep her alive in an environment where social rejection once meant starvation. Strategic response. When you receive a compliment, your brain files it in short-term storage because it doesn't trigger threat detection. To override this, you have to manually move it to long-term memory. The method is simple, but requires intention. Immediately after receiving a compliment, write down the exact words, not a summary, the actual sentence. Your analysis completely changed how I see this problem. Then write 1 specific detail about the context, where you were standing, what the person was wearing, the time of day. This forces your hippocampus, your memory formation center, to create an episodic memory, the same type your brain automatically creates for embarrassing moments. You're not being narcissistic. You're correcting an evolutionary imbalance. But here's what most people don't realize. The embarrassing moments you remember aren't even real anymore. There's something much worse. Michael remembers his college presentation disaster perfectly. He said orgasm instead of organism during his biology final presentation. The entire lecture hall erupted. He can still hear the laughter. Except here's what actually happened. 3 people chuckled. His professor smiled and moved on. The presentation lasted 12 more minutes. He got a B+. But every time Michael recalls this memory, which he's done hundreds of times, his brain doesn't replay a recording. It rebuilds the memory from fragments. And each time you rebuild a memory, you change it slightly based on your current emotional state. This is called memory reconsolidation. Neuroscientist Karim Nader proved that every time you remember something, you're remembering the last time you remembered it, not the original event. So that embarrassing moment from 10 years ago, you've been editing it, making it worse, adding details that never existed, amplifying the horror. Your brain has been creating a psychological horror film, and you're the director, cinematographer, and traumatized audience. Meanwhile, compliments don't get recalled repeatedly, so they remain stable, but forgotten. They don't get the neurological reinforcement that comes from rumination. Here's the really dark part. Every time you replay that embarrassing memory, you're actually making it more permanent. You're strengthening the neural pathway. You're teaching your brain that this memory is important survival data that needs to be preserved at all costs. You're literally trauma bonding with your own humiliation. Strategic response. The next time an embarrassing memory surfaces, don't try to suppress it. That makes it stronger. Instead, immediately recall it 3 times in a row, but change one small detail each time that makes it less threatening. First recall. Remember it exactly as your brain presents it. Second recall. Add a detail that makes you human, not pathetic. I was exhausted that day. I'd been up for 20 hours working on that project. Third recall. Add a detail about what happened after that your brain conveniently omits. 2 people came up to me afterward and said they'd made the same mistake before. You're not lying to yourself. You're restoring context your amygdala deleted because it was irrelevant to threat detection. You're unfreezing a memory that's been crystallized in its worst possible form. And there's one more reason your brain does this. It's more calculated than you think. Jessica spilled coffee on herself during a client meeting. For 3 months afterward, she arrived 15 minutes early to every meeting, triple-checked her coffee lid, and replayed the moment constantly. Her brain convinced her that everyone in that meeting still remembers her coffee disaster, that it defined her professional reputation. Here's the truth. Nobody remembers. Not because they're kind, but because they're obsessed with their own embarrassing moments. Research shows we overestimate how much others notice our mistakes by approximately 300%. Psychologists call this the spotlight effect. But your brain doesn't care about accuracy. It cares about prevention. Your brain keeps embarrassing moments vivid because it's running a constant threat simulation. It's asking, could this happen again? How do we prevent it? This is hypervigilance, a protective mechanism that keeps you scanning for social threats. Compliments don't trigger this response because they don't help you avoid danger. Your brain doesn't need to run simulations on, what if someone compliments me again? There's no threat to prepare for. So you end up in this bizarre situation where you're an expert on everything that could go wrong socially, but you're completely blind to what you're doing right. The cruel irony? This hypervigilance makes you more likely to make mistakes. When you're terrified of mispronouncing a word, you're more likely to stumble over it. When you're paranoid about awkward silences, you fill them with nervous rambling. Your protective mechanism becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Strategic response. After any social interaction where you feel you made a mistake, immediately write down 3 things you did well in that same interaction. Not things you think you should have done, things you actually did. This isn't toxic positivity. It's data collection. Your brain is collecting biased data, only the threats. You're manually collecting the full data set. Within 2 weeks of doing this consistently, you'll notice something shift. The embarrassing moments still surface, but they'll be accompanied by counter evidence. Your brain will start to recognize that its threat assessment is incomplete. Here's what nobody tells you about memory. You think you're cursed with perfect recall of your worst moments, but you're not remembering the past. You're constructing a version of yourself designed to survive a world that no longer exists. Your brain is still preparing you for tribal rejection, for predators, for environments where one social mistake could mean death. But you live in a world where mispronouncing a word means absolutely nothing, where spilling coffee is forgotten by everyone except you within hours, where the stakes your brain thinks it's protecting you from are completely imaginary. The embarrassing moments aren't more real than the compliments. They're just louder. And you've been turning up their volume every time you replay them. Starting today, you have a choice. You can let your amygdala run the show, collecting evidence that you're one mistake away from social annihilation. Or you can recognize that your brain is trying to protect you from a threat that doesn't exist anymore. The compliments were real. The positive feedback was accurate. Your brain just wasn't designed to hold on to them, but you can train it. One written sentence at a time. One recalled compliment at a time. One moment of self-recognition that you're not the disaster your 2 a.m. thoughts insist you are. Your brain remembers embarrassing moments to protect you. But what you actually need protection from is the story it's been telling you about who you are.